What's up, lore masters? This is a multi-part series breaking down one of the most contentious episodes in all of Star Trekdom. Specifically, we're looking at In the Pale Moonlight. If you want to start from the beginning, which I highly suggest so you won't be confused, please check in the top right corner or by clicking in the link in the description. With that out of the way, let's just get into it. In the last video, we discussed how Garak had manipulated Sisko. While I still stand by that analysis, it's worth noting that Sisko was someone who was completely capable of going to the point of murder on his own. That is to say, he is the type of person who could do something this evil if he had to. In fact, we've seen him do things like this in the past, albeit just indirectly. So, looking back at the episode itself, and with the manipulation in full swing, Garak and Sisko would go about the business of bringing the Romulans into the war. The first step was to free a man who was set to be executed by the Klingon Empire, a holosmith by the name of Graython. The man is at first jovial at being freed and shows himself to be a little bit of a pervert, but he sobers up completely when he realizes that Garak is involved in their pursuits. This would be another red flag for Sisko, the man hearing the voice in the back of his head again, his conscience, which is something he doesn't hear a lot, it seems. The voice would be telling him that something was off, but ultimately he would push forward. After all, people were dying every day, and the war, like before, wasn't making it easier, constantly reminding him of everything that is being lost. Unfortunately, Graython would not be content with simply waiting in his quarters and being free. He apparently opts to assault a Dabo girl, to which the hero of the day, Quark of all people, would save her. While I do firmly believe that the first brick in the road to the destruction of Sisko's Starfleet morality was laid the moment he decided to bring the Romulans into the war, the first real betrayal of his uniform would come when Sisko bribes Quark to not press any charges, as there could not be any evidence left tying Graythor to DS9. Quark would be rejuvenated to know that even Starfleet officers could be corrupted. Here's an interesting side note. It's funny how Quark can decide to press charges or not, but the Dabo girl doesn't have that option. Dabo girl aside, I keep harping on it, but the writing is so exquisite. The slow fade of Sisko is written exceptionally well. Every action he does up to this point is escalatory, but natural. It never goes too far, too fast. He's just taking one step after the other. And the inner dialogue and monologue with himself, how he's just fighting what he is becoming, is so excellent. The scene where he debates if he should be going forward after bribing Quark and is near quitting, but then there's that damn casualty report. It's poetry. Though, let me stop and bring up the DS9 episode, Statistical Probabilities, for a moment. There are two reasons I bring this up. The first being that a lot of people get so triggered that I point out its legitimacy. They hate the fact that sometimes you have to bend to evil to save lives. I look forward to those yummy algo-pushing comments, so please hate me. And the second is to look at the two different Siskos, which there is a stark difference. Sisko, back in that episode in Statistical Probabilities, was self-righteous. He was willing to let everyone die, to go down fighting because he couldn't fathom that saving lives meant bending the knee. And now that he sees what that actually looks like, he's watching that decision to continue to fight, what it actually meant. That because he didn't decide to go with Bashir's plan, that people are dying every day, and it's happening so often that at least one person knows someone who is gone every casualty report. Now he's a changed man. He's more willing to lose himself and what Starfleet means just for the possibility of winning. The possibility. The Romulans joining aren't even a sure thing. Again, we're just trying to stem the tide. Make no mistake, Bashir was partially right. Without the Romulans and some boneheaded decisions on the part of the Dominion, the Federation alliance would have lost, and Sisko would have continued to watch thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions die. All because of his ego. Back to the episode, as the operation continues, more and more Sisko would be trying to find ways to justify what was happening. He would continue to lie to himself or simply ignore his gut instincts. This would all come to a head when Garak requests another major brick to be laid. The Cardassian would state that he found a genuine optolithic rod. Let's stop briefly for a second. I believe that this is also another clue that Garak always intended to kill the senator. The fact that Garak vouches for the contact but never said why he vouches, and we never see the source, is odd. Additionally, what the contact wants is rather interesting. He wants 200 liters of biomimetic gel. At first, Sisko scoffs and declines to give it. Garak says without the biomimetic gel, they won't be able to continue. And Sisko is okay with that. He says that the entire operation should stop. After a few moments and realizing what that meant, Sisko would ultimately agree to let some biomimetic gel go, just not 200 liters. It's funny how quick Garak backs down from that number and states that it's negotiable. This opens up a couple of interesting ideas. It could be that Garak, understanding how bartering works, gave a higher number than he actually required and knew Sisko would decline in order to get the actual number he wanted. Or what if Garak kept the biomimetic gel? Imagine what he could trade for that given how restricted the material was. Also, if the optolithic data rods are made on Cardassia on an as-needed basis, what exactly would a high-level Cardassian officer need with such a medical marvel? It makes me wonder if Garak didn't keep the gel for himself. For a rainy day. After all, who's to say that Garak didn't keep an optolithic rod and simply said it was someone else? You never know when you might want to manipulate a Starfleet officer to win a war after all. Just something to consider. Sisko orders that 83 liters of biomimetic gel is packaged for interstellar transport and to be sent off. He would give the orders, in writing, to Bashir, who files an official protest. Of course, I'm sure Bashir's log, where Bashir specifically mentions this happened, won't be corrupted, the orders won't disappear, and the protest will definitely make it to Starfleet Medical. That all will stay on the up and up. I feel confident of that. And after all this, after everything that has happened, the holo program would be made. The lie that was probably true anyway with the planned invasion of Romulus would be created. We would see the stress of it all bearing down on Sisko as he would threaten the holosmith. Even inferring harm would come to the man. Though this never goes anywhere, so we won't be bringing it up again. Stay tuned as we will ultimately discuss the conclusion of this episode, when Sisko loses all of his self-respect and the Romulans enter the war.